Landline managing editor Jami Jones has been in journalism since '91. Focused on the trucking industry since 2000, she's been covering trucking as long as the FMCSA has been in business. With more than 2 decades of trucking journalism experience, she's been around the block on key issues in trucking with a history lesson on why, where we are to anyone who will listen. But no matter whether she's judging Shell SuperRigs or writing hard-hitting analyses, she directs the editorial content for Landline magazine from lug nuts and from baked nuts, by the way, there are a couple out there on the road, to legislation, and always with the trucker in mind. Dave, say good morning to Jami Jones.
Good morning, Jami Jones.
Morning, guys.
Good morning. So, you back?
I am.
How was it?
It was just wonderful. I mean, the weather was great. Everybody was in, high spirits, even, with everything that's going on. It was just, I think it was the reset that a lot of people needed, just to take a break from reality in a lot of ways and just enjoy, friendship, trucking, all the good that's about this industry.
Well, in fact, I asked you, are you back? How was it? And people are asking, well, what do you mean? Where was she and what was good? Jami just came back from Finland and had coffee.
Nice.
No, she was there at GBATS, Guilt by Association Truck Show, GBATS. How long did it take him to figure out GBATS? Because it was long form for a year. Was it really? Because I had only heard the long form until like this year. Isn't that weird?
Yeah, they were calling it GBATS straight away because I was laughing about it with Brian when he first started the show, and he said, well, we've got MATS, GATS, and now we have GBATS.
Yeah, I love it.
So it was like...
By the way, GBATS, well, this is going to get me in trouble. It would be really funny if GBATS is the one that ends up surviving, huh? That would be a really interesting thing to play. Yeah, I mean, it's a big deal, isn't it now?
It is a very big deal. They had over 700 trucks parked. It was funny. Our associate editor, Tyson Fisher, and Trucking with OIDA, Scott Thompson, the three of us were together, but Tyson and I went and were shooting the Special Olympics convoy. And I said, we have been all over this place for 3 days, and I'm still seeing trucks that I did not see on the lot there. It was wall-to-wall trucks everywhere we turned, and just amazing. So it was very well attended. It was a really good time, and then we had a little business mixed in with FMCSA holding a Q&A session there at the show, and so it was a lot of fun, but with a little business mixed in, and that's what makes this one particularly special.
I'm going to say something, and I want to bounce it off of you and get your thoughts on it as well. I have been making the case for the last couple of years that in the aftermath of COVID, anybody who's not out there going and doing is going to be on the short end of in regards to both news, trucking, the world, that there is a big desire for in the real world, that this idea of the remote studio, of the of not being on the scene is a dodo bird now. It's on its way out. And it's important, isn't it, to get out there. I mean, I made the same effort to get up to Ohio to go do that thing. It really is important to be on the ground these days, right? There's no more, people sitting in their robes broadcasting from Dallas anymore, right?
Oh, that's one thing that has always been a mission at Landline, is to connect with our readers, listeners, to understand what they're going through, what they're thinking, how they're feeling, the challenges that they face. And you get it over the phone, but you don't get it like you do sitting down and having a real conversation. And, we had quite the team from OIDA there, and President Todd Spencer, at one point he said, let's go over to the tour truck. So we drove him over to the tour truck, and he sat there and talked to members for 3 or 4 hours that afternoon. Everybody, it's so important to have those human connections and really talk and have those conversations. And I think that's what really set this Q&A session with FMCSA apart. It was a conversation. It wasn't adversarial at all. It was a good conversation, great questions from the truck drivers in attendance, a lot of follow-up questions from Michael Hampton, who's the senior policy advisor for FMCSA, really gets his stuff. He was just a very impressive representative of FMCSA to be there and talk the issues of anything and everything that truckers wanted to bring up. He was ready for it.
I'm the thing about that is that with that lack of adversarial nature and this is, I'm actually going to ask you a political question. Don't worry, it's not a partisan one. These guys over there at the DOT, whatever their administrative skills may or may not be, they understand the politics of all of this really well, don't they? They know exactly where their core constituency is, and they are doing everything to make sure that at least that they're listening in not just a way of saying we're listening and we're sympathetic, but we're going to go in another direction. They really are listening in an attempt to kind of construct policies that are going to make sure that the people who are driving trucks feel like they're on their side, right?
100%. The word common sense came out of Mr. Hampton's mouth more than once, that we have to have common sense approaches to regulation and enforcement. And that's why we're seeing things like the pause in the non-domiciled CDLs and things like that. I mean, there needs to be, we've talked about it before, enforcement isn't just on the roadside, which some administrators, that was their focus. They're looking at a bigger picture that actually will mean more to highway safety for everyone by getting unqualified drivers off the road.
Dave actually has a question for you that he's been asking all morning long. He asked it of me before we started the show. We talked a little bit about it. We asked Rick Gobble about it as well. Dave, you had a question about the which you would call almost a lack of clarity.
About the non-domiciled CDL thing, Jamie. I find it very complicated and confusing, and I was wondering if that wasn't part of the idea to make it so hard to figure out that you're just going to give up.
Yeah, I mean, the idea is that, make sure people go through a lot of hoops to get there. If you want that non-domiciled, you have to produce a lot of paperwork and make a lot of effort, correct?
I think it's a system that started off, I know it was a system that started off with one purpose in mind, and it evolved into the mess that it is now. And, anytime states get to set the rules, you have a patchwork, and that's what made it overly complicated. And with the audit that started in June, they figured out pretty quickly that there's a big problem out there. The rough estimates that they were throwing out is 25% were issued outside the scope of the regulations.
25%. Wow. It's amazing, though, and don't take this in the wrong vein, anybody. And it's admitted that the reason for this push now are these recent accidents, and especially the one in Florida. But it would seem to me that you'd have to have a heck of a lot more accidents to have this national emergency thing. So we've got the rhetoric overlay on this thing, but on the ground, what are the drivers saying? Like at GBATS, what were drivers saying on the ground about how much of a problem? It's a problem, but is it like over the top problem, or is it just a bad problem? Does that make any sense to you?
Yeah, and it's so anecdotal at this point. It's hard to put actual stats on it. Perception is reality is kind of that's where we are right now.
Sure.
And so what people think is happening is what they believe is happening. And we do know it's a problem. I mean, if you have 25% of a section of CDLs being handed out that are outside the scope of the regulation, that's a big problem. And so, as far as wrecks and things like that, yes, we have issues on that as well. But, you have unsafe equipment that gums up the works. You have other things, they're not all going to be massive fatality incidents. There are going to be other things. There's going to be property damage at truck stops. There's going to be other things that are affecting this. And then, frankly, there's motor carriers that prey on these individuals who can't speak English proficient and get these CDLs and pay them poorly. So that's just another aspect of it. It's just a multi-layered issue that we have to focus on the safety aspect, but it does have a ripple effect beyond safety.
I'm going to say this too, by the way, and just to let Dave, I'm actually telling Dave as much as I'm telling you this. A lot of the drivers that I have talked to privately have expressed concerns about exactly not accidents like the catastrophic one that happened in Florida, but have been saying we've been seeing stuff like this that has come very close to becoming that, and we're seeing it a lot more frequently. And a lot of them, and you can talk about perception, the idea too that if in fact this isn't the cause for an unsafe workspace, then we'll figure that out. And it's one of those things too. It's kind of like when you figured out how scurvy happened on boats. They just started removing stuff and adding stuff, trying to figure out which one worked. If they remove this from the equation and accidents go down, they'll know something. If they remove this from the equation and rates go up, they'll know something. The idea if they do this and suddenly, carriers who are not playing by the rules are getting fined, they'll know something. And I think that's part of the approach too as well. You feel like that's kind of it too. It's like, look, we're not completely sure, but you know what? Let's get rid of this and we'll see what kind of impact it has, and then we'll go on to the next thing. Is that kind of your feeling about it, Jami?
Well, that's 100% what's going on, and that's why they're going after English language proficiency and non-domiciled CDLs first. Those are regulations on the books that should be followed. They haven't been enforced, and they need to back up and hit the reset button, and let's get us back in compliance on these things and see what's happening. And another component to all of this that seems to get lost in the shuffle is driver training. We still have a substandard driver training regulation. And, that's something else that's going to have to factor in sooner rather than later if they really want to make true improvements to highway safety.
I'll tell you what, if they actually keep on working on that, I got a lot of friends over at the NAPF TDS and a lot of friends at the CVTA who would be absolutely delighted if they actually made those certifications more stringent. I know that for a fact. And I know you guys would find a lot of common ground with those folks over there as well. Jami, of all the things you had at GBATS, which one was the most fun for you? What did you enjoy the most?
Wow.
That's a tough one, isn't it?
That's a tough one. It really is. And I just have to say, being around the OOIDA team and having just so many drivers come by and sit and visit and, really connect on the issues, that was cool. But I don't know, just being around something that celebrates everything great about trucking, that's the best part, because it's real easy to get wound up on the policy wonk side or, something that doesn't matter as much as the people. And, that's when you have an event that is focused 100% on the people, that's what is my favorite part.
Jami Jones, who we gave a little bit more time to because we wanted to kind of breathe into kind of a post-mortem, as it were, of something that is very much alive, GBATS, a post-mortem of what is very much alive, and GBATS joins us. She, of course, is the Landline managing editor and runs a pack of ink-stained wretches whose company we enjoy here on Nemo Nation on a regular basis. Jami, it's good to talk to you. You and I will be talking soon about many a thing under the sun, but have a great... Oh, and by the way, turns out your Chiefs' reports of their demise have been greatly exaggerated, correct? Must be happy about that.
Oh, we dealt a spanking out to the Ravens yesterday, who, fun trivia fact, is OOIDA's Rod Knopfziger's favorite team. So there was a lot of trash talk on text threads last night.
Oh my God! I can't. Poor Rod. By the way, I mean it's one thing to lose; it's another thing to lose your quarterback, who's God Almighty. And with those, I got to tell you, man, with those defensive line problems that the Ravens are having, if you can't get a rush on Patrick Mahomes, it's been nice knowing you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, if you give the Wizard of Kansas City enough time, he will carve you up like a Thanksgiving turkey. Thank you, Jami. It's good to talk to you.
Good to talk to you guys. Have a great week.
Landline.media is the place to be, and we're always kind of throwing stories from them your way, guys. Don't forget, we are a regular partner with our friends over at OIDA and our friends at Landline, and proud to be associated with them.